Hi guys, Doyle Dykes here. Welcome to my Sunday string along. And I'll be stringing along today with this beautiful RB 800 like Roy Clark used to play on the E-Haul. Look at that. Thank you, Kelly Barber. And Kelly Barber over at Action Sound, Hawkins, Texas. Boy, I had a great time with those guys the other day. And we just had a wonderful time at the theater there and at the music store and just hanging out with you guys. But I have to say I haven't played this in a while, Kelly, and never did play banjo much. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we'd go, laughing all the way. Bells and bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. Oh, you know that was awful, but it's a lot of fun. I love that. What do you think of that, Jeff and Willie and Gov? And anyway, well, they're always sending banjo jokes and things, to me. And Kelly Barber, of course, you know a lot of them. Kelly Barber said in Texas, he said, what's the difference between a banjo and a trampoline? You got to take your boots off to jump on a trampoline. And so anyway, but I love a good banjo. I really do. And so, Merry Christmas, folks. I hope you're having a good season, and I am. Christmas is one of those things. I heard Dr. David Jeremiah. I'm going to be with him pretty soon, the Saturday and Sunday before Christmas. But I heard Dr. Jeremiah say, Christmas is the only holiday where we have multiple days, even weeks of celebration. Easter is like maybe 2 days, 4th of July, 1 day, things like that. And, but Christmas, 2 months. And we just love it. And my kids love it. My wife and I went shopping yesterday. And I want to talk about gift giving here today, and the giving of gifts, and why we do that, and to celebrate. Because it's not our birthday, it's his. Well, poof, here we go again, folks. But I don't want to take too much of your time, and I needed to reset my levels here. But this was a gift. Talking about giving gifts. This is a precious gift from James Olson. And he says, I'm going to build you a cutaway. And, he dedicated his talent and his gift of guitar making to the Lord years ago. And his wife also, Sue, is an amazing artist. And I just wanted to honor them as well today. And I'll never forget when James called me. He says, I was on my way to Texas. And he says, I'm building you a cutaway. And look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? Wow. What a gift. Well, I want to be the little drama boy, but I'm definitely not a little drummer boy. But I always thought that song should have been about a guitar player. Now I thought that would be a lot more interesting. And so, if you can't beat them, join them. Let's see what I can do here. You go. Don't you agree? All right, folks. It's funny. I started off with a banjo here today, and I saw a cartoon, and I think one of my friends out in California must have sent it. And so, anyway, it was a banjo player walking out of the nativity, the stable, and it was like. I think it was one of the shepherds, because he had a big staff and he's going like this, and the guy's toting his banjo out, and then next in line was a little drummer boy, and so anyway, oh man, it doesn't matter what you do if you'll just give it to the Lord. What can I give? And you remember that song? What then shall I bring him? Empty empty as I am. If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. And if I were a wise man, I would know my part. What then shall I give him? I must give my heart. The sustain on this guitar, Chet Atkins designed this guitar, and the reason I showed the front of it because he signed it right here for me in '91. Gave this to me. Oh man, I had no idea, but his assistant Clarissa had called me over, said next time you're going to be in town, and I came over, and Chet was up in his office, and he was walking downstairs with this brown case. And I have the case here, and it said Butts preamp, which was Mr. Butts was actually the guy that designed the Filtertron pickups, and his name was Ray Butts, and it was an amazing electronics genius. And he had made amplifiers and so on, and Chet asked him to, if he would help him with the pickup system, and so the Filtertrons that you see in all the Gretsch guitars. And speaking of Gretsch, by the way, this was a gift. He says, I think I have something that'll help you. I want to give you something. And he gave me one of his personal guitars, and this is it. And so, like I said, a gift is something. You give a part of yourself when you give a gift like that. And also, I was going to play a song on this, Fred. And anyway, Fred Gretsch is a good friend of mine. But if you see the back of it, it says to Doyle. And this was a gift from the Gretsches and from Fred. And I can't say Fred without saying Dinah. Fred and Dinah Gretsch. And a beautiful White Falcon guitar. And I'll promise I'll play this over the holidays, but I'm trying to keep it a little shorter on this one here today. But the thing is, giving a gift, like when they say, well, which model would you like? And they'll look in inventory. I think of all the years he spent, about 20 years trying to get his brand back and the name back, the Gretsch brand back in his family. And he and Dinah, when they did, they had then what are you going to do? How are you going to build them? And he said, building a factory is another lifetime. And so anyway, they found a factory overseas, and they were it's a wonderful place over the Terada factory over in Japan and Tokyo. And so when you think about what he's done to keep that name and all the things, when he gives a guitar, he's given a part of his life and heritage to me. It's what I felt like. That's his namesake. And that's what he has built up, So it's not just, pull it out of inventory. It's a lot more difficult than that. And now on James Olson, this beautiful guitar, and you see all the workmanship in this. This took about a year of his time to build this guitar. And it was a year later when I got it, 9 months to a year, about a year later. And I think of all the man hours he put in there, and sometimes I'll just think about him bending over and with a file and even working on the neck after it was completely built. I mean, he's put so many hours into the playability and the sound and the bracing and the finish and the inlays and all of that. And then, of course, Chet spent a number of years working on this guitar, and then he gave me something that belonged to him that he had played. And a gift is something you'll never forget. And it doesn't have to be a big thing like this. It can be something, in fact, I have something here. So someone else sent these beautiful cards, and this is handmade. And she makes these craft type cards and gave my wife stacks of them. I left my Bibles, I mentioned the other day, in Fort Myers. And so they not only sent my Bible back, but they also sent a bunch of cards for her to last all year for special occasions. And these are the Allanders that did this. And not only that, but he sent me this beautiful knife from Germany, a German knife. And just saw this a while ago. I hadn't even seen it. But isn't that beautiful? Just gorgeous piece of art. And it means something. When somebody, and they just included in the box, they didn't have to do it. They just send my Bibles back, and I couldn't pay them to send it back. I tried to give them my account number, and they wouldn't do any of that. And then also, look at this. I mean, I was just looking at some things. This was a gift from Barry Lackey a few years ago, and he had several little things on the inside of this. And I still have the box, and I think of Barry every time I look at this. And not only that, but I also I have a little marshmallows here that he sent, and it's on the tree downstairs on the family tree, And then I have a nutcracker, cowboy nutcracker that my sister-in-law Debbie, my brother Aubrey gave me. I think it was Debbie more than anything. And so, I just, every time I say, oh, that's so nice. It's something. It doesn't have to be a big thing. But it's something when you give a gift to somebody and it touches their hearts. Because gift giving, I mean, that is really what Christmas is all about. That for God so loved the world that he gave. We don't deserve to be saved, to say that we're a Christian. We don't deserve grace. That's why it's grace, because it's undeserved, unmerited favor. That's the definition. Undeserved or unmerited, unearned favor of God. And so when you think about what God has done for our lives, I mean, what can we give him? Empty as I am. If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would know my part. Then what shall I give him? I must give my heart. And so you give him your heart. You give him yourself. Our time and our talents and our finances and everything else that we can give. And I noticed I got a note from Fred Gretsch yesterday, and I've got to give him a call back, in fact. But he has a thing every year that he does for the Salvation Army. He raises money. So if you go to Salvation Army, put Fred Gretsch, Fred's Red Kettle on there, and we donate to that every year. We have other things that we give. And I'm not just talking about that. But find a way to be a blessing. Be mindful, especially at a time like this, for all that God has done for us. I mentioned the other day about my wife giving me the tree. Well, here it is. And I can't look at that without thinking about her and about her gift to me. When I got saved, I was 11 years old and I raised my hands. A lot of you know this story, but I raised my hands to the Lord. Nobody told me to do that, but I was at my church. I made an altar out of my seat. I just knelt down. I said, Lord, give me a job to do, and I'll always tell people about you. And I'm still doing that today. I said this the other day, but some people asked me, are your fingers insured? I said, no, but they're on Medicare now. So I've been doing this a long time. A long, long time. And what a blessing it is. Oh, I forgot I put this on there. I probably so I wouldn't forget it, but here you go. If you want to find a way to support us, this is a great way to do that. Speaking of giving, thank you very much. All the money goes to needy children, my grandkids. But anyway, we have Sunday string along mugs and shirts and all kinds of things. And also I bought something. I'm going to end up giving it to someone I won't mention right now for Christmas, and I'll get me another one. But the Van Zant CD and also T-shirts are here, and the here's the long LP, and they had an album release at their church a few days, a week ago, I think about a week ago today. And their pastor really supporting them, and I appreciate them so much, dedicated and giving their gifts, especially at a time like this, giving it to the Lord. And that's a great thing. What can we give him? I know it's commercialized. I know there's so much going on. Rita and I, my wife, went out yesterday to the mall. Oh, my Lord, the traffic and all the things. Yeah, I get it. But it was so worth it. And we bought things for the kids and the grandkids and even the nasty sinking the beautiful, wonderful son-in-laws that we had. I'm just kidding. You guys know that. But it was fun to me, and it was a joy to be able to do that. Maybe you're not able to do that, but give what you can. Give your time. And share a note with somebody or do something like that. Just give some. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be like a guitar. But giving, I heard someone say, is the essence of living. But especially at a time like this, at Christmas. And it'll bless you more than it blesses anybody else. And I told my wife, it was when we were on our way home. And we drove 3 hours to get there and 3 hours back. And I say, we do this every year. And sometimes we say, well, we'll make it more simple. But, it wouldn't be Christmas if we didn't do this. And some of them like sports, and some of them like music, and some of them like, fashion, and some of them like jewelry, and some of them, you know what I mean? And but just having them in mind and knowing that you're doing something for them, especially and buying them or giving them something that they wouldn't even maybe get for themselves is another thing. But the whole thing about it, it reminds me of something I heard Alistair Begg say. Well, he's one of my favorite preachers, and he said this one time. He says, celebrating Christmas is kind of like birthday parties when I was a kid. He said all the kids would bring what they wanted, what they would like to have to the birthday boy or girl. And when they got there, and after the cake and they opened the presents, and so every kid would play with the toy that they brought, and the birthday kid a lot of times in the corner by himself, and which is a sad thing, but that's kind of the way Christmas can be. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to just buy something and celebrate among ourselves and leave him out in a corner somewhere. It's about him. It's all about Jesus. In Romans chapter 12, verse 1, and this is one of my favorite verses in the Bible. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you would present yourselves, that you would present. It's spelt the same way. And I say this probably every Christmas, every year. I don't care because it's the Word, and the Word will last forever, not just from one Christmas to the next. And so I think it's probably one of the greatest messages the Lord ever gave to me, for my heart. And I just wanted to share it with others. I was just reading it one day. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God. It's by His grace. Paul said, I'm chief among sinners, yet by His mercy He has given me a ministry. He's given me something to give back, and by the mercies of God, that you or ye present your bodies a living sacrifice. Present your bodies, present yourselves, not a dead sacrifice. Jesus did that for us, but a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God. Do it as unto Him. When you do something for someone else, do it as unto the Lord, which is your reasonable, not unreasonable, but very reasonable service. Think about what He's done for us. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove, I can't do that for you, but that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And I love that too in the Amplified Bible. If I can, would you mind me? Let me find this real quick. The Amplified. I may have had it marked in this one. Actually, it's something else. And you know what? You can't get enough of this anyway. Just mark it up and just color it up and do everything you can to remember. But and this is in the Amplified Bible, Romans chapter 12, verse 1. And he says, I appeal to you, therefore, brethren, and beg of you, in view of all the mercies of God, to make a decisive dedication of your bodies, presenting all of your members and faculties. And that means your guitar playing or your singing or your writing or whatever you do, your art, as a living sacrifice, holy and devoted and consecrated and well-pleasing to God. Don't you want to please Him? Which is your reasonable or rational, intelligent service and your spiritual worship. This is spiritual worship. When you give of yourself to the Lord, is spiritual worship. You know, sometimes when I go to these churches and all, and we're at a humongous church, First Baptist, this coming week. If you're in the area, Columbia, South Carolina, it's going to be great. And in fact, today I'm at a Pine Street Church of God. Is that right? Anyway, it's in Wilmington, North Carolina. But next week there'll be Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be at the First Baptist Church in Columbia, South Carolina. And so, no matter where you go, God can use you no matter where I go. I'm just a little tiny part in a huge program. And then I go to Dr. David Jeremiah. Also, I go to Songbirds Museum. And that's also a wonderful way. And that's just something I give. They can't, they could probably afford, I'm sure they have shows and afford to put, but this is something I want to do. I do it out of my heart. It's an offering for our family to give the gift of music and kids to other kids. And so be a part of that. And people say, when are you going to play around Chattanooga? I believe it's on the 17th. Go to my website. It's at the Songbirds Foundation. That's for that. And then I'll be at Dr. David Jeremiah's. And sometimes, you're well taken care of, these churches, and they treat you so good, in every respect. And then there's sometimes, I tell my wife, I said, well, they can't really afford to have it. It's just, you can't do that all the time, every day. But the Lord puts that in your spirit, where to go and what to do. And I'm always, God, give me direction in my life and protection. Even now, especially now, give me direction, protect. I can't wear my body out and be at the wrong place. I mean, I want to be where God wants me to be. And then sometimes they can't afford you. So you just do what you can, and you just do it as unto the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And then it said that's your spiritual worship and your intelligent service and spiritual worship. That's a spiritual thing. When you give of yourself, do not be conformed to this world, this age, fashioned after its and adapted to its external superficial customs, but be transformed or changed by the entire renewal of your mind and by its new ideals and new attitude. God will give you new ideas and new ideals, for in your heart. He'll give you desires in your heart that you never thought you'd ever want to do. Never even was part of you, or your psyche, to even do anything like God would put in your mind. And so that you may prove for yourselves what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God, even the thing which is good and acceptable and perfect in His sight for you. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to give. Thank you for the opportunity to share our gifts, Lord, with others. And whatever that we do, help us and lead us and direct us to the right people, whether it's going to a hospice or a hospital or assisted living or a church, Lord, somewhere where we would minister in maybe at a banquet or a party or a service, or an extravaganza, whatever it might be. It may be a small thing, but Lord, it might even be for one person. Some of the greatest blessings you've ever given me in my heart was to one person when I would minister to them and play on my guitar, and I'd see feeble hands raised, and I'd begin to hear them sing praises to you. Nothing can even compare to that. not even the Grand Ole Opry or the biggest church in the country. When we're directed at the right place at the right time, do that for us, and we'll go, and we'll be a blessing. Use us right where we are. We thank you for it. Give you praise in Jesus' name. Thank you, Chet, for this guitar. I'm still using it. Also, James Olson and Fred and Dinah Gretch. And thank you so much for joining us on our Sunday string along. Merry Christmas.